pals, welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. So today we are here to talk about exactly what you need to know for the L Word Generation Q Season 2 that we are getting in a mere 71 days after a very long year and a half. And as you guys know, last weekend I exclusively dropped that the L Word is returning on August 8th, 2021, its usual Sunday spot. So I cannot wait to see the show. It's been a real long, hard road that none of us could have possibly imagined what was going to go on in the interim between the two seasons. So there's a lot to go over, and I know there's a lot of people who they're not as involved in the fan world as maybe you and I are. So there'll be a lot of people that they only are really active in the fan world when the show's on. So that's why I'm doing this now, because nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Pride's coming, it's a bank holiday weekend, the show's 70 days away, we're getting a trailer, and it's coming, again, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, very, very soon. So this is the perfect time for a video like this, and then the true countdown and excitement begins. I really cannot wait. So now is the perfect time, if you're not already subscribed, to subscribe to the channel and be sure to hit the notifications, because you know there's a lot coming up. Trailer releases, interviews with cast members, it's all happening on the channel. And also make sure to go over and follow me on social media, because what I do a lot of the time, like with the Helena news, with the Rosie O'Donnell news, with the August 8th is going to be the release date news, I'll release it on Instagram in a post, and then I'll do a video going more into depth. So the Instagram's a really good place to follow me and get all the information there as well. So enough, let's get to, and let's go over exactly what we need to remember. We need to know what's important for the L Word Generation Q Season 2. So I'm going to go kind of into my review format a bit and go through each of the characters. There's a few characters that are not going to be appearing in season 2 as far as we know. So I'll also, let you know if they're not returning, if they are returning, if they are, how many episodes, if we know, and also just tell you a brief bit of what happened in season 1 and what kind of, they're going to be looking for going forward with season 2. Of course, our OGs, that we've been with for 15, 16 years, that I'll give as much information as I can. And also the way that I'm going to split them up, I'm going to do the younger group of like Finley, Sophie, Dani, Micah, and then have Nat, Gigi, and Tess, although they're newbies for the show. They're more woven into the storyline with Bette, Shane, and Alice, and Tina, so it makes more sense to talk about them in that grouping. So the best place, I think, to start off with is the big finale of the cliffhanger. I did actually watch 7 and 8 just like 2 minutes ago to kind of just refresh myself. I mean, I rewatched the show a lot, and Generation Q, I have really found that the more I watch the show, the more I like it, but also there's always little things that I didn't see before, because obviously I've watched the original L Word 9 billion times, and with Generation Q, because it's so new, obviously I haven't watched it as much, and it's really interesting going back and seeing things like way in the beginning episodes that kind of tie in later on down the road. And I'm sure there's some stuff in season 1 that's them laying like a little bit of foundation. So who knows what could be picked up from the season 1 threads. So cliffhangers. Dani, Sophie, Finley at the airport. We freeze on Sophie's face. We don't know where she's going. Everyone has their theories. And Dani is obviously going to Hawaii, well, thinks she's going to Hawaii, and Finley is going home for her sister's wedding, and that's where we leave them, with Sophie smiling and seemingly happy with her decision. So let's backtrack for a minute and go over Sophie, Dani, and Finley. Who are they? What do we need to remember about them from season 1? We'll start off with Sophie. And Sophie Suarez, we meet her mum, grandma, and sister in the first series, in the first 8 episodes. And what I really love about the new characters and the new show as a whole is that one of my biggest things that I criticized about the original show is that we really didn't get lots of backstories, lots of information. We got little tiny bits of we met Bette's dad, Alice's mum, for a few episodes, and certain characters, Tina, were completely ignored and we didn't get anything in the background. But even the ones that we did get little bits about their family, it really wasn't huge information. And it was only really ever about one parent, and then the other one we didn't know anything about. So I like that we were seeing multiple members of Sophie's family in the first 8 episodes. And also it seems as though Sophie's sister Maribel, played by Gillian Mercado, is going to be a lot more prominent in season 2. So I think that's really cool. The actress seems really awesome and I'm going to enjoy seeing more of her. And Sophie is Alice's producer. She is one of Alice's right-hand people, her go-to person for guests and stuff. Sophie actually had a connection to Kamala Harris, and Kamala turned her down for the Alice show. So I really wish they could have got her, because they're definitely not going to get her now. She's hella busy. And Sophie got Roxane Gay, and she seems to obviously be good at her job, and Alice seems to have a good rapport with her. Her girlfriend when we start, and then her now fiance, is Dani Nunez, who Dani in the beginning is kind of the vice president, right hand of her father's company that has arms in many different areas, one of which is pharmaceuticals. And in the very first episode, Bette and Dani meet when Bette goes to speak to Dani's dad and he's busy, and Bette is very surprised to see that a young queer woman is involved with this very dark, pharmaceutical company. People are heavily, critical of the industry as a whole, and Bette kind of calls Dani out for it, and that makes Dani leave her dad's company. And there's probably some serious nepotism going on there. Dani does seem a very capable person, but there's not very many vice presidents of huge multi-million-dollar companies, possibly billion-dollar company, when I think Dani's even a little bit younger than me. I think she's supposed to be 29, 30. So Dani and Sophie seem to be together for a while. We don't really know how long, but it's long enough that Sophie is kind of making a joke with her friends about the fact that Dani hasn't proposed yet. And we do actually see Dani proposing, them having an engagement party, and Dani's father, who is quite involved, he's in multiple episodes, and he is in a lot of episodes of season 2 as well, that he is not on board with Sophie. And there does seem to be a tiny undercurrent of, you're a daughter and not a son, and maybe there's a little bit of I don't want to completely say homophobia, but there's definitely, that seems to be what Dani thinks in the beginning, and then it seems more the dad is bothered by Sophie the person rather than Sophie as a woman. So Sophie and Dani, both very successful, and they are living together with their friend Micah. Micah is a trans man and he's a professor. They don't ever say at what university, but obviously it's a university in Los Angeles or community college. and they all live together in like a really nice house with a pool and stuff. And in the first episode, the new building manager moves in, and Micah and he start seeing each other, and they don't have a huge storyline. But in the earlier episodes, there's one day that Jose like doesn't go out with Micah, and there's not really much of explanation, when later in the season finale, Jose is an artist and he takes Micah to one of his shows, and another guy who we only see in a way earlier episode for like a few minutes lying by the pool, which again, like clever, like dropping that so much earlier. And then obviously when we meet him in the finale properly, he reveals himself to be Jose's husband. And we do also meet Micah's mom in the later episodes when she comes to visit in LA. So to kick back around to Sophie, in the second to last episode, her grandma has a fall and is put in the hospital. And obviously Sophie, her mom and her sister are like rallying around and worried about the grandma and in and out of the hospital. And Dani is gearing up big time because by this stage she has transitioned from her dad's company in an earlier episode to working for Bette's campaign. In the beginning, there's Dani and Bette's campaign manager, Pierce, but in the sixth episode, when there's a big, issue with Bette having kind of a tussle, is that the right word, with the husband of a woman she's had an affair with, Pierce says he can't really do this and he leaves. So in the seventh episode, Dani takes charge as Bette's campaign manager because the election is so close and there's no time to hire someone else. So in the seventh episode, when Sophie's grandma goes into hospital, Sophie goes to the hospital with their friend Finley, who I'll talk about in a second, and Dani is kind of 100% in with Bette and trying to get her elected as mayor of Los Angeles, as the first woman mayor and the first openly gay mayor. So Dani really has her hands full, and Dani is very good at her job. She's very headstrong. She is very much like Bette, and we're shown this multiple times throughout the series. There's all these nice little nods, and you see Bette kind of looking at her like, oh, Dani's like me when I was that age, and Bette trying to give her mold her into this person that Bette now is, where yes, she just barked her coffee order, but Bette kind of tells her, okay, say please and stuff like that. And maybe this is me overgeneralizing too much, and it could exist within straight women, but how the hell would I know? But there's a lot of older gay women and younger gay women. I know there's even a lot of younger people, well, not a lot, there's some younger people who watch me, and I love when they reach out and message and ask me things, even nothing to do with the L word or anything like that. It's little bits of life advice and stuff, and I think that's quite a nice thing, because when queer women are navigating the world, it's so different to everyone else who is maybe married to a man, and that sort of it's just different. And I really like the Bette and Dani relationship, and I just really enjoy that kind of Bette and Dani dynamic. It is obvious though that dynamic only goes one way. It's Bette seeing Dani as the younger version of her, and then Dani looking at Bette swoon, because Dani has eyes, right? We all do. Hello, have you I watched the ending to the season finale 4 times because Bette looks so good in that dress. So Dani, she's only mortal, so what are you gonna do? So as I said, Sophie is left at the airport, and Dani is waiting outside their flight to go to Hawaii because they have decided to go and get married in Hawaii now that Dani's off work because Bette lost. And there is another person waiting at the airport who is going home to see their family, and that is Finley. So Sophie's decision is between Dani and Finley, after a year and a half, we still don't know. So I hope we find out pretty quick. And Finley is their close friend who also works at Alice's show. She's more of like a production assistant, PA, and she also simultaneously has a job at Dana's now. So Finley is really good friends with Sophie, but in the 7th episode when they're at the hospital, something happens between them, and then in the 8th episode they sleep together, and there's this whole, back and forth, what's going on, Sophie's cheating, and Finley kind of has this very complicated story of she seems to have a dependence on alcohol, and at one stage she says that she's never actually slept with anyone like sober. So the first person she does sleep with sober, well, I'm hoping she was sober anyway, because she was at work, was Sophie. So we are left. So the last thing we see is Sophie turning around and running down the airport. She stops, she smiles. It cuts to black, we don't know. So she is either running out the door away from both of them. She's going to Dani to go to Hawaii, or she's going to Finley to either get on the plane with her to Missouri or to stop her and be with her. So that's our decision for the newbies, and let's get into our OGs. So starting off with Shane, and Shane doesn't end the season in the best place. A lot of our OGs had a tough season finale. So Shane's wife, Kiara, has returned that they're actually technically divorced, and Kiara has got inseminated and she's pregnant, and in the season finale she actually loses the baby, and she and Shane have this argument because Kiara says like, oh, you were relieved, because Shane's made it very clear that she doesn't want to have children. So Shane and Kiara split up, and we see Shane at the end kind of in her car, and she picks up a stray dog, and that's Shane's ending. So it seems as though Shane is going to be starting off with like a clean slate. She did obviously move back to LA in the series premiere, and she had all these successful hair salons, and she was married to Kiara, who's quite a famous musician. So I mean, Shane flew in a private jet in the premiere, like Shane's doing hella well, and she decides to buy that sports bar that was a lesbian bar, that she decides to buy it like that. So she's got a lot of money, and she transforms the bar into Dana's, makes it a lesbian bar again. And the manager of the bar is Tess, who she's in season 1 too, but she's going to have a bigger role in season 2. And Tess is in AA. She does have a relapse, and she ends up actually sleeping with Finley, but she's back on the horse, and she's 3 days sober when we're at the end of the season finale. So Shane and Tess, they've said on the Pants podcast, Kate Menning, and when Jamie Clayton, who plays Tess, was on an episode, they were saying, oh, it's like a complicated relationship. And it definitely seems as though Shane's ex-wife Kiara is not in season 2, because the actress who plays Kiara is cast on another show, and there's been like no sign of her in any casting about Generation Q season 2. So it definitely seems as though Shane and the dog and Dana's are all starting off on a new page for season 2. So Alice, Nat, and Gigi. Alice was in a bit of a tizzy in the last episode because her show was kind of on the bubble. They didn't know whether it was going to be renewed or not, and Alice kind of said, listen, I'm going to do the show that I want to do, and if it gets cancelled, I'm sorry it gets cancelled, but I'm not going to kind of bow to pressure. So Alice does her show, and earlier in the season, Alice and her girlfriend of 2 years, Nat, they are living this kind of like happy life with Nat's 2 kids from her previous relationship, and they're co-parenting with Nat's ex-wife, who's the other mother, and she's like a big real estate person, and that's Gigi. And in the middle of the season, Nat, Gigi, and Alice strike up a throuple relationship, and quite honestly, it was fire. Okay, like it was one of my favorite things from the season. I absolutely love Gigi. She is my favorite new character. She's the best. And Alice, Nat, and Gigi was just absolute perfection. Love all 3 of them. But of course, like, how long could a throuple with 2 ex-wives last for? It didn't last very long until in the 7th episode, Alice comes home and Gigi and Nat have actually slept together without Alice there. And that scene was just, whoa, like, again, 10 out of 10. Well done, ladies. But it was, kind of tumultuous after a while. And then Alice, when she's doing her last show with Roxane Gay, Alice has actually gone to stay with Shane, and she's like, Nat and Gigi, it seems I'm the odd man out. They have like this lunch that was very reminiscent of the lunch that Alice, Tasha, and Jamie had when that throuple thing came up with it in season 6 of the original show. And while Alice is on the air interviewing Roxane Gay, Nat comes and tells her, I want to be with you. I want to make our relationship work. So Alice actually, especially out of the OGs, ends the series in the best place, as her show it was renewed because we've seen, Alice season 2 stuff up from all the set pictures. And also she has Nat, and we know Stephanie Allen is back in the series premiere and in a number of episodes. I think that it's really interesting that Stephanie Allen has not been bumped up to a series regular, and that could be totally her decision. But she definitely, I didn't see her on set as much as even like Gigi and everyone else. She is definitely listed in the premiere and the 2nd episode. We've only got the cast listings for the first 2, and then there were other pictures of her circulating like at the wrap party and the end of filming. But there was a chunk in the middle where I'm not sure how many episodes she was in, because she was filming something else at the same time with her wife. So time will tell what's happening there, but my theory is that Gigi is going to be worked more into the group as a whole, or with like maybe her and Danny, or maybe her and Bette become friends, because I think she's not just going to be in scenes with Alice and Nat and the kids basically. So I'm really excited to see that, because Stefano Moafi, she was bumped up I think to a series regular by episode 3. So she's definitely, we saw a lot of her on set. So she is definitely, still a series regular in season 2, and we'll be seeing a lot of her. And I definitely want to know a lot more about Gigi. We're very limited to, she's Nat's ex-wife. I only know the real estate thing because it was like listed on the website. I don't think there was any other alluding to it other than like she was in a showing, or she was out of town, they said in one episode. And then obviously she has the kids too. So definitely interested in seeing more of her. And there was a cast listing for her brother in season 2. So it seems like we're going to know more about her background as well. Alice obviously has season 2 of her show, and it also seems as though Alice is going to be writing a book. There were pictures of a step and repeat with Don't Ask Alice on it, and I'll put the picture up. And then there's also Donald Faison, who's joining the cast as a book editor, and we've seen Donald and Leisha Haley filming together, so it definitely seems as though he's going to be her editor. And I think that now that obviously, TV shows, when they get a first series, especially that's only limited to 8 episodes, they're careful, because they don't know whether the show's going to work or whether this is just going to be a one and done, especially with a reboot. But once a show gets a second season, it's very likely that it's gonna continue to at least like a fifth season or something. I'm not saying it's absolutely guaranteed, but especially with the way the world is and everything and the show being pushed for filming, and it's been nearly 2 years, I would be absolutely shocked if we didn't get a third season for the show. So they know they kind of have season 2, season 3, and they're going to be setting up like their real, these are the places where most of our characters are. Obviously, you're going to have like Bette's house, Shane's house, etc. But these sets, like we had the planet, or when when you think of those shows, like Friends had the coffee house and all that. Obviously, Dana's is going to have a much bigger role in season 2, and with people like Tessa's there. I don't know whether Finley will continue her job there or not, but Shane obviously owns the bar, and I can definitely see that being the setting for Alice, Bette, Shane, but then also the newbies using that setting as well. And then Alice's show, outside of their houses, I think that Alice's show is going to be the other, like, the place where a lot takes place, because you have Alice working there. Obviously, you can bring Nat and Gigi in there, kids linked to Alice too. And then obviously Sophie and Finley both work there. We have new characters like Donald Faison and stuff coming in, and that's also the place that's used for bringing in guest stars, because there'll be guests on Alice's show. So going forward, I see Dana's and Alice's show being used a lot more in the future. I'm just going to talk about Angie and Jordi quickly, and then I'll move on to Bette Tina, because there's a lot there. And Jordan Hall, who plays Angie, was bumped up to a series regular, and also the actress who plays Jordi has been on set a lot, so it seems as though Angie and Jordi still going strong. We're going to see a lot more media role for Angie moving forward. We also have the character of Kayla Allenwood come in, who's going to be Angie's half biological sibling, who her donor Marcus Allenwood, obviously his daughter. So we're going to be seeing a lot more storyline for Angie outside of she's Bette's daughter and she's in school, and obviously she has this relationship too, which I think is really great. Like, I absolutely would have loved to have seen something like this on TV when I was dating my first girlfriend when I was like 17, and it's just you don't really like see it too much. Like, yes, there's a lot of coming out stories, but you don't actually see like a lot of relationships for those like young adults, and I think it'll be really great representation. So on to Bette, and then obviously I'll talk about Tina as well. So what isn't there to say about Bette Porter? The famous Bette Porter, revered by lesbians all over the world. I just love her. She's just my favorite character, like, hands down. Alice is a really close second, but just Bette is just my absolute favorite. And I am so excited to see what happens with her next season. I think obviously Bette had a very difficult end. So we obviously come back to Generation Q after like a 10 to 12 year gap. Bette has moved out of the arts world and she is running for mayor. And she is unfortunately divorced, and Angie is with Bette most of the time because Tina is working on, it seems like a TV show on the East Coast, but then I hear some people say Canada. So I don't think we've ever had that actually confirmed by the show, whether it's Canada or the East Coast, but it's one of the two. And Bette is, throughout the whole 8 episodes, running for mayor, and in the finale we get Bette's election result and party, and unfortunately Bette does not win the race. It is very, very close, and then she also kind of gets screwed by the guy who does become mayor, as he like reaches out and asks Bette if she would like to come on board to work with like an opioid crisis task force, because this is something that's very near and dear to Bette, having had her sister Kit pass away due to an overdose. So Bette then thinks that, you know, at least she's going to be able to do this great thing. But Dani has a conversation with her dad, who it's made clear that Milner, the opponent or the mayor of Los Angeles, is kind of just like using Bette's goodwill, and he has like all these deals with like jails and Dani's dad's company, who is a pharmaceutical company. So Bette gets a bit defeated, and also Bette also got an enormous blow in episode 7. I mean, it's very clear throughout the whole season that Bette is still absolutely in love with Tina. And she even says at one stage when she's like talking to the LGBTQ youth that the woman she loves beyond measure. So Bette is absolutely still holding out hope. And the episode 6 and 7 that Tina's in, they just kill me, because Tina obviously shows up when Bette's had this whole thing with Felicity's husband, and Tina's there for her. And one thing that I thought was really interesting, and I didn't notice this until actually today when I watched episodes 7 and 8, or 6, 7, and 8, is that when they're in episode 7 and Dani and Bette are in the coffee shop, Dani and Bette have this like, Dani orders for her, and then when they're like passing each other, like they really know what each other's doing with their beverage, and that's something like really personal, like knowing exactly the way someone takes their coffee, like one milk with that, like leave room, all that stuff. And then in episode 6, when Tina first comes back and they're having that conversation where, like the very beginning when Bette has the blue shirt on and Tina has the like really nice green jumper, that I think it's tea that they have, but when they're having the conversation, Bette actually gets up and like messes around with the drink that Tina's made her. I just thought it was really interesting, and like it could be just nothing and like that I'm reading into it, but and I know there's a lot of people that think that like Dani and Bette hooking up should happen. I'm way of I think that Dani and Bette should be like mentor-mentee, but I did think it was interesting that they were so like in parallel, and then Tina was like has like something out of sync there. So, you know, I don't know whether that's like a new thing and like maybe Tina just doesn't know the way she takes this a new drink, or it's trying to show that they don't know each other as well, or it could just be there's absolutely nothing that I'm just being a lunatic about. Anyway, the whole point of what I was starting to say was Bette got this huge blow because she absolutely is still in love with Tina. Like even Angie's like, I'm still holding out hope for you guys to get back together. And Tina, the scene is just so crushing too, because when Tina asks like, oh, can we have dinner? And Bette's like, I'll cook. It really, I mean, everybody was thinking it, right? It's like the stir fry scene all over again. And Bette's like so happy when she's like cooking for Tina, and when they start eating, you can just see like Bette is just looking at her. Like if her eyes could like pop out like and be like love hearts, like that's exactly what was happening. It's just the way like Jennifer Beals and Laura Holloman are amazing in these 2 episodes. But this dinner scene is just, I will talk about this forever. It is absolutely criminal that they weren't nominated for something for this dinner scene, because it is perfect, like amazing. And the way that like Bette's looking at Tina is just, you can read it all over her face. And then Tina tells Bette that she's moving back to LA with her current girlfriend Carrie, who has proposed to her, and Tina said yes. Ooh, it's just like blow after blow to Bette, because as we know from the original series, Tina wasn't that like amped on getting married, and then when they got back together, obviously Bette proposed and stuff, but they were together for a long time. And I mean, you could say like, okay, obviously gay marriage wasn't legal then and stuff like that, but Tina has said yes very, very quickly. So I'm sure that is like in Bette's mind. And then obviously we know that Laura Holloman is coming back for season 2, which is fantastic. and Rosie O'Donnell is playing Carrie. They are both in the series premiere, so it's going to be hella interesting to see what goes on there. But Bette is going back into the arts world. It definitely seems as though, because obviously like she lost the mayoral race and she's not going to take this job with Milner. And then we also know that there's some characters coming in with art backgrounds and art links. So Vanessa Williams is going to be playing Pippa, who's an artist who does seem to be Bette's love interest in season 2. And then we also have Griffin Dunn, who is like an art business person that's going to have some sort of business relationship with Bette. So obviously Tina and Carrie moving back. I mean, obviously Angie is like nearly at college age. Like, it's not like Alice and Nat and Gigi where like the kids are little and you're having to like really co-parent. I mean, obviously Bette and Tina are going to have to co-parent, and like applying to colleges I'm assuming is going to happen soon and things like that. So it's definitely going to be very interesting. And just to, you know, let everyone know where we've left everyone off, we have Sophie, Dani and Finley at the airport. Micah and Jose, obviously Jose's husband introduced himself to Micah, and Micah has like left, gone home, and won't let Jose in to speak. Then we have Alice and Nat back together. Everything seems to be going good. Just Gigi left a bit open-ended. Shane starting things off with Dana's going well. Kiara has gone and Shane's got her dog. And then Bette is screaming on top of a hill, but she is going out on a first date with Maya. I know that actress won't be back that played Maya, because I know she's on Law and Order. So I think that was just supposed to represent like Bette taking a step forward and like going out on the like dating scene again and picking herself up. So we will definitely be seeing very soon what is going to happen with everyone. I absolutely, I cannot wait. And it's just going to be so great to not only have the show back for new episodes, but to be able to talk to everyone about it and do videos and things, because obviously it's been, you know, without having the show, without new episodes, you know, we're like talking about the OG show and the first season, and I'm just really excited to see what happens with every single person. And I know a few people have, I've said this before, but not everyone watches every single one of my videos, and also it was a super cool thing that happened, and it kind of made like my year. So sue me, I'm going to talk about it a bunch. I had a few direct messages with Marja Lewis Ryan, who's the showrunner, and one of the things she said was that season 2 is really special, and I can definitely imagine it is. They have put their blood, sweat and tears into this and filmed 8 months, way longer than they usually do, in a global nightmare. So I just know this is going to be a great season, and I absolutely cannot wait to see it. So fingers firmly crossed for the L Word Generation Q season 2 trailer. And we also have Pride kicking off next week. Could it be any more perfect? So as I said at the beginning, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe, because obviously I'm even going to be interviewing cast members soon. So make sure that you know when the trailer drops, when a cast member is coming on the show. Also, don't forget, my merch is now available on my store. I actually have some in person that I can show you. So cool Bette Tina stuff, and if you can see, it says like Ash Silver in the little newspaper. It's so cool. The woman who designed them is like majorly talented. She's awesome, because I do not have the skill to do this. And I also have like Generation Q ones with all their names and stuff. The quality is really good. It's a really awesome place. They handle everything for me. And then there's even, I know that like some people, like with sizing and stuff, they don't want to get clothes, or some people just size wise and things, it doesn't work. So I also did stuff like water bottles and like phone cases and things. So it's all in my store. It'll be linked in the description box down below. And there's also going to be tons of chances to win merch throughout like all of season 2. And also don't forget to follow me on social media. That is where I drop a lot of the information and then post my videos. So make sure to follow me over on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I will keep you all up to date on whatever is going on in the L Word sphere. So thank you as always so much for watching, and thank you for sticking around with me throughout this long year and a half. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. So make sure to take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.